Long before the village of Agu learned to fear the river, before mothers warned their daughters about spirits wearing human faces, there lived a hunter named Okoro. He was not rich. He did not own land or cattle, but his heart was pure, and the forest knew him by name. The elders said, "A man with such kindness will either be blessed or destroyed." They did not know how right they were. One evening, as rain pounded the earth like angry fists, Okoro heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was a woman's cry, soft and broken, coming from deep within the forest. Any sensible man would have turned back. The forest at night belonged to spirits, not mortals. But Okoro was not like other men. He followed the sound, his feet sinking into mud, his torch flickering in the wind. And there she was, a woman lying near a riverbank, her body pale as moonlight, her hair black as the night itself. Beside her lay a serpent's shed skin, glistening in the rain. The elders had always warned, never touch what a serpent leaves behind. But Okoro saw only suffering. He lifted her into his arms and carried her home. When Okoro reached his small hut, he laid the woman gently on his mat. Her breathing was shallow, her skin cold to the touch. He covered her with his only blanket and lit a fire to warm the room. All night, he sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall, praying to the ancestors that she would survive. By morning, her eyes opened. They were the color of river water after a storm, deep and mysterious. She looked at him with confusion and fear. "Where am I?" she whispered. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. Okoro smiled gently. "You are safe now. I found you in the forest. Do you remember what happened?" She shook her head slowly. "I remember nothing. Not where I came from, not who I am. Only my name, Nkem." Okoro felt his heart soften. "Then you will stay here until your memory returns," he said. She looked at him with gratitude, and something else he could not name. That same morning, news spread through the village like wildfire. Women gathered at the well, whispering behind their hands. Men frowned and shook their heads. A strange woman, appearing from nowhere? This could only mean trouble. Deep beneath the sacred river, in a palace made of water and bones, the goddess Azu sat on her throne of coral. Her servants, spirits bound to her will, trembled as she gazed into her mirror of living water. The surface rippled, and an image appeared, Okoro carrying Nkem into his hut. Azu's beautiful face twisted with rage. Her green eyes burned like poison fire. "How dare he?" she hissed. "How dare a mortal touch what belongs to me?" For Nkem was not human. She was a serpent spirit, one of Azu's most loyal servants, sent to the surface world on a mission. But something had gone wrong. The transformation spell had been interrupted, leaving Nkem weak and confused. Azu's fingers curled into fists. She had watched Okoro for months, envying his pure heart. In all her centuries of power, she had never known genuine love. It made her bitter. It made her cruel. "If I cannot have such devotion," she whispered, "then he shall lose it. Let his heart burn with false love. Let him trust what will destroy him." She touched the water, and dark magic rippled outward toward the village above. Days turned into weeks. Nkem grew stronger, and Okoro cared for her with a gentleness that surprised even himself. He taught her to recognize the forest paths, to identify herbs that healed and plants that harmed. She learned quickly, her movements graceful and sure, as if the forest itself welcomed her presence. In return, she taught him songs. Strange, haunting melodies that seemed older than memory itself. When she sang, the birds fell silent to listen. The wind itself seemed to pause. Okoro would sit by the fire, watching her lips move, feeling something warm and dangerous growing in his chest. Love, he realized. He was falling in love. One evening, as the moon rose full and silver, they sat together outside his hut. Fireflies danced around them like tiny spirits. Nkem turned to him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Why did you save me?" she asked softly. Okoro considered the question. "Because leaving you there would have been like leaving my own heart in the forest." She looked away, and in that moment, something flickered across her face. Was it joy, or was it guilt? Okoro could not tell. Neither of them noticed the serpent coiled around the hut's wooden post, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The village elder, a man named Azuka, came to Okoro's hut one morning. His face was lined with worry, his white beard trembling as he spoke. "Okoro, my son, I must warn you. The signs are not good." He pointed toward the sky, where a hawk circled endlessly above Okoro's home. The hawk does not circle without reason. It sees death. It sees deception. Okoro laughed, trying to ease the old man's fears. "Elder Azuka, you worry too much. Nkem is harmless. She remembers nothing of her past." But Azuka shook his head gravely. "That is what troubles me most. A woman who remembers nothing is either cursed or cursing. Be careful, my son. Not everything beautiful is safe." That night, Okoro had a dream. He stood in the forest, and Nkem walked toward him, smiling. But as she came closer, her smile widened too much, her teeth becoming sharp and white. Her eyes turned golden, pupils narrowing into slits. She reached for him, and her fingers became scales. He woke, gasping, his heart pounding like a war drum. Beside him, Nkem slept peacefully, her breathing soft and steady. He told himself it was only a dream. But deep inside, doubt had planted its seed. Strange things began to happen. Okoro had always been a skilled hunter, bringing home meat for himself and the widows of the village. But now his traps sat empty day after day. Animals fled when they sensed his presence. Even the fish in the river avoided his nets. The other hunters noticed. "What curse have you brought upon yourself?" they asked, their voices filled with suspicion. "Ever since that woman came, the forest rejects you." Okoro defended Nkem fiercely, but inside, fear gnawed at him. The trees near his hut began to wither, their leaves turning brown and falling in the middle of the growing season. The ground around his home became dry and cracked, as if something beneath it was drinking all life away. One morning, as Nkem prepared to wash clothes, Okoro noticed something that made his blood freeze. On her pillow, scattered like tiny jewels, were scales. Not fish scales, serpent scales. They glimmered green and gold in the morning light. He picked one up, feeling its smooth, cold surface. When Nkem returned, he hid it in his palm, saying nothing. But that night, he barely slept. His mind raced with questions he was too afraid to ask. The village priest, a man who could see beyond the veil of the physical world, came unbidden to Okoro's door. His name was Okoye, and his eyes were milky white, but they saw more than any sighted man's. He did not need an invitation. He simply walked in and sat down. "There is a serpent spirit in this house," Okoye said quietly. His voice was not accusing, only stating fact. "It feeds on your life force, Okoro. Every day you grow weaker, and you do not even notice." Okoro's hands trembled. "You are mistaken, priest. Nkem is innocent. She is confused and afraid, nothing more." Okoye stood slowly, his staff tapping against the ground. "When love blinds you, even venom tastes like honey. I have warned you, son of the forest. What you do with this warning is your choice." He left, and the air felt colder in his absence. Outside, hidden behind the doorway, Nkem had heard everything. Her hands covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. She wanted to run, to disappear back into the river. But something held her there, something she had never felt before. She did not want to leave him. That night, under the light of the moon, Nkem sat with Okoro by the fire. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Okoro, I need to tell you something. I have dreams, terrible dreams." He took her hand. "Tell me." She closed her eyes. "I dream of water, deep and dark. I dream of a woman made of rivers calling my name. I dream of scales covering my skin, of my body changing into something else. Sometimes I wake and I don't know if I'm human or monster." Okoro's heart ached. He pulled her close, holding her tightly. "Whatever you are, whatever you were, I do not care. You are Nkem. You are the woman I love, and I will protect you from anything, even from yourself." She buried her face in his chest and wept. For the first time in her existence, she felt guilt. She had been sent to destroy this man. But instead, she was beginning to love him. Far below, In her underwater palace, Azu watched through her mirror and sneered. "Let his promise be his doom," she whispered, and the river stirred with dark magic. The village prepared for the Festival of Spirits, a celebration held every full moon to honor the ancestors and the gods. Drums echoed through the night, and dancers moved like flames in the firelight. Okoro brought Nkem, hoping the joy of the festival would ease her troubled mind. She wore a simple wrapper, but her beauty outshone every woman there. When the drums called for dancers, she stepped forward. Her movements were fluid, hypnotic, as if the rhythm lived inside her bones. The villagers watched in awe, forgetting their suspicions for a moment. Even the river seemed to respond. Its waters rose higher with every beat of the drum, creeping closer to the dancing circle. Then the sky changed. Clouds rolled in like ink spreading across parchment. The moon disappeared behind them, and the air grew thick with tension. A cold wind swept through the gathering, extinguishing half the fires. People murmured nervously, clutching their children. And then it happened. Lightning split the sky, striking the ground near the river. In that blinding flash, everyone saw it. A serpent symbol, glowing like hot iron, burned across Nkem's bare back. She screamed, collapsing to her knees. Okoro ran to her, but villagers scattered in terror, shouting abomination. Spirit, demon. Nkem's eyes glowed golden, her pupils becoming narrow slits. Her hair seemed to move on its own, each strand shifting like tiny serpents. For a brief, horrible moment, her true form revealed itself. Okoro stood frozen, torn between horror and love. The woman he had saved, the woman he had fallen for, was not human. Then a voice boomed across the village, shaking the ground beneath their feet. It came from the river, deep and commanding. "She is mine." The water rose in a massive wave, forming the shape of a woman. Azu, the river goddess, towered above them all, her eyes burning with jealous fury. "The serpent belongs to me, mortal. You dare to touch what was mine. Now you will pay." Okoro stepped in front of Nkem, shielding her with his body. "I will not let you take her." Azu laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Foolish man, she was sent to destroy you. Every moment you spent with her, she drained your life. Did you never wonder why you grew weaker? Why the forest turned its back on you?" Nkem reached for Okoro, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Before Okoro could respond, water spirits rose from the river, their hands like liquid chains. They grabbed Nkem and dragged her toward the water. Okoro dove into the river without hesitation. The current was strong, pulling him under, but he fought against it. He could see Nkem ahead, sinking deeper, her arms reaching for him. He swam harder, his lungs burning, his vision blurring. But invisible forces pushed him back, slamming him against rocks and logs. He surfaced, gasping, only to be thrown onto the riverbank by a wave. He tried to stand, to dive in again, but his body would not obey. Exhaustion overtook him, and darkness claimed his vision. The last thing he heard was Nkem's scream, echoing from the depths. Deep below, in Azu's palace, Nkem knelt before the goddess, her wrists bound with chains of living water. "Please," she begged, "spare him. Punish me, but let him live." Azu circled her slowly, a cruel smile on her lips. "You dare ask for mercy? You, who failed your mission. You were supposed to break his heart, to drain him until nothing remained. Instead, you fell in love with him." She leaned close, her voice a venomous whisper. "If you want him to live, you will finish what you started. Return to the surface. Love him. And with every touch, every kiss, you will steal what remains of his life. Destroy him with your own hands." Days passed. The village mourned, believing Nkem was gone forever. Okoro lay in his hut, feverish and broken. His sisters came to care for him, but he turned them away, staring at the wall with empty eyes. He had lost everything: his strength, his reputation, his love. Then one evening, as the sun set in shades of blood and gold, there was a knock at his door. He did not move. The knock came again, softer. Okoro. His heart stopped. That voice. He stumbled to the door and threw it open. There stood Nkem, looking human once more. Her eyes were filled with sadness, but she smiled. "I'm free," she whispered. "The goddess released me." Okoro pulled her into his arms, weeping with joy. He did not see the way her hands trembled. He did not notice the sorrow that lingered in her gaze. That night, they held each other close. And as she kissed him, she felt his warmth flowing into her, his life force feeding the curse Azu had placed upon her. She wanted to pull away, to run, but Azu's magic bound her will. With every touch, she was killing the man she loved, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Okoro grew weaker. His skin, once rich and dark, became pale and ashen. His eyes lost their light. He moved slowly, struggling to complete even simple tasks. But he never complained. He smiled when Kim brought him food. He held her hand and told her he was fine, that he just needed rest. The villagers whispered again. The demon woman has returned. She is draining his life. Some wanted to drive her away, but others feared Azu's wrath. So they watched from a distance, shaking their heads, waiting for the inevitable. Kim watched Okoro fade day by day. Her guilt consumed her. At night, she would sit by the river and cry until her throat burned. She wanted to tell him the truth, but fear silenced her. If she revealed Azu's curse, the goddess would kill him instantly. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, Kim wrapped herself in a shawl and went to the priest's home. Okoye sat outside, as if he had been waiting for her. "I know why you've come," he said quietly. "You want to save him." She nodded, tears falling freely. "Please, tell me how." The priest sighed deeply. "There is only one way. You must return to the river forever, severing all ties to the human world. Only then will the curse break." Kim's heart shattered, but she knew what she had to do. That night, Azu appeared in Kim's dreams. The goddess stood before her, arms crossed, eyes gleaming with triumph. "So, the serpent has grown a conscience. How touching." Kim knelt. "Please, great Azu, release him. I will serve you forever. I will never disobey again." Azu laughed. "You think I want your service? I want his suffering. I want him to know that love is poison, that trust is death." She leaned closer, her breath cold as winter wind. "But I am not without mercy. I will give you a choice. You can return to the river now, and he will live, weak and broken, but alive. Or you can stay and watch him die slowly in your arms, knowing you are the cause." Kim closed her eyes. "If I go, will he remember me?" Azu's smile was cruel. "Oh yes, he will remember, and he will hate you for abandoning him." The goddess vanished, leaving Kim alone in the darkness of her own mind. When she woke, her decision was made. She would leave. She would break his heart to save his life, even if it meant he would hate her forever. Some loves are too precious to let die, even if it means dying yourself. The next morning, Nkem stood before Okoro. Her face was cold, her voice hard. "I need to tell you the truth. I never loved you." Okoro stared at her, disbelief written across his face. "What?" She forced herself to continue, each word cutting her like a blade. "I was sent to destroy you. Everything was a lie. The love, the songs, the tears. All of it. I am a servant of Azu, and my mission is complete. You are dying, Okoro, and I am the one who killed you." His face crumbled. The pain in his eyes was unbearable. "No, you don't mean that." She turned away, unable to look at him. "Goodbye, Okoro. You were a fool to trust me." She walked out, each step heavier than the last. Behind her, she heard him collapse, his broken sobs echoing through the hut. It was the sound of a heart shattering. Kim ran into the forest, falling to her knees by the river. She pressed her face into the mud, sobbing. "Forgive me," she whispered. "Forgive me." But the river offered no comfort. Only cold, indifferent water, flowing endlessly toward the sea. Azu rejoiced. In her palace, she danced, laughing wildly. At last, the mortal's heart is broken. He will wither away, and his pure love will die with him. She commanded the river to rise, to flood the village, to drown the fields and homes. The waters obeyed, surging forward with unnatural speed. Villagers scrambled to higher ground, clutching children and belongings. They cursed Okoro's name, blaming him for bringing the serpent woman among them. But Okoro heard none of it. He lay in his hut, staring at the ceiling, too broken to care if he lived or died. Then, through his haze of pain, realization struck. Nkem's words had been too deliberate, too cold. She had been lying. She had pushed him away to save him. His heart, though shattered, understood. She loved him, and she was sacrificing herself. He forced himself to stand, his legs shaking. The river was flooding, water pouring into his hut. But he did not care. He grabbed his hunting spear and stumbled toward the riverbank, determination burning in his eyes. "Azu!" he shouted into the storm. "Face me, goddess. If you want my life, come and take it." Thunder roared in response. The river churned, and from the depths, something massive began to rise. Okoro stood at the river's edge, water swirling around his knees. Rain pounded his body, but he did not move. He raised his spear toward the sky. "I am Okoro, son of the forest. I do not fear you, Azu. You are a goddess of water, but I am a man of earth, and I will not bow." The river exploded upward, and Azu emerged in her full, terrifying glory. Her body was made of water and light, her eyes burning with ancient fury. "You dare challenge me, mortal?" Okoro met her gaze without flinching. "I challenge any who would harm the one I love. Curse me, drown me, strike me with lightning. But you will not take her without a fight." Azu's laughter was like breaking ice. "Foolish man, she does not love you. She told you herself." Okoro shook his head. "She lied to protect me. I know her heart, and I would rather die with that knowledge than live without her." He dove into the raging water, swimming toward the depths where he knew she was held. The current tried to crush him, but he fought through it, every stroke fueled by love and desperation. And then, in the darkness below, he saw her, a massive serpent, coiled in chains of water, her golden eyes filled with sorrow. It was Nkem. Okoro swam closer, his lungs screaming for air. Nkem's serpent form writhed, trying to push him away, but he reached out and touched her scaled skin. "I know it's you," he said, bubbles escaping his lips. "I'm not afraid." Her eyes widened. Then, slowly, her form began to shimmer, shifting between serpent and woman. "Leave," she begged, her voice echoing underwater. "You will die here." Okoro shook his head. "Love cannot be undone by fear. If you die, I die with you." Azu's voice boomed through the water. "How touching. But words will not break my curse. Serpent, I command you, kill him now, or be destroyed." Nkem looked at Okoro, tears mixing with the water around them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then, instead of striking Okoro, she turned her blade toward herself. "No!" Okoro screamed, but it was too late. Nkem plunged the blade into her own heart. Her blood, shimmering gold and red, spread through the water like smoke. The chains binding her shattered. The curse broke. An Azu's scream of rage shook the entire river. "What have you done?" the goddess shrieked. But Nkem only smiled, her form fading. "I chose love," she whispered, "and love is stronger than any curse." The river exploded with light. Azu's power, fueled by control and fear, could not withstand the force of Nkem's sacrifice. The water spirits she had enslaved broke free, rising toward the surface. The river itself began to shrink, its waters receding rapidly. Azu's beautiful form flickered, cracks spreading across her like breaking glass. "No," she screamed. "I am eternal. I am a goddess." But the truth was undeniable. Her power had been built on domination, on fear, on the suffering of others. And when true love, selfless and pure, challenged that power, it crumbled. She fell back into the depths, her palace collapsing around her, her voice fading into silence. Okoro, barely conscious, drifted toward the surface. Something pushed him upward, something gentle and warm. When he broke through the water, gasping for air, he found himself on the riverbank. Beside him, coiled in the mud, was a silver serpent. Its eyes were Nkem's eyes. It looked at him one last time, and then slithered into the reeds and disappeared. Okoro reached out, but she was gone. He collapsed, unconscious, as villagers ran toward him, pulling him to safety. The flood had stopped. The curse was broken. But the cost had been everything. Weeks passed. Okoro recovered slowly, his strength returning. The village rebuilt. The river flowed peacefully once more, its waters clear and calm. But Okoro was never the same. He moved through life quietly, speaking little, his eyes always distant. The elders came to him with questions, but he answered none. He simply went about his days, hunting, working, helping others. But every night, he would walk to the riverbank and sit in silence. One evening, a child asked, "Why do you go to the river every night, Uncle Okoro?" He smiled sadly. "I'm keeping a promise." The child did not understand, but the elders did. They had seen the silver serpent in the reeds, watching from the shadows. They knew. Years passed. Okoro grew older, his hair turning gray. But still, every full moon, he returned to the river. He would leave food at the water's edge, fruits and bread, honey and palm wine. And he would whisper into the darkness, "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. I have not forgotten." Sometimes, if the moonlight was just right, villagers would see a silver serpent emerge from the water, eating the offerings before disappearing again. They said it was a guardian spirit now, protecting the village, watching over Okoro. One night, as Okoro sat by the river, now an old man with a walking stick, he spoke aloud. "Nkem, I know you can hear me. I want you to know something. I forgive you for everything, and I'm grateful. You taught me that love is not about possession. It is about sacrifice." The reeds rustled, though there was no wind. A silver serpent emerged slowly, moving toward him. Okoro did not flinch. He reached out his hand, and the serpent rested its head against his palm. For a moment, the world was silent. Two souls, connected across the divide between mortal and spirit, shared one final moment of peace. Then the serpent pulled away and slithered back into the water. Okoro watched until it disappeared beneath the surface. "Until we meet again," he whispered. The villagers who witnessed this moment spoke of it for generations. They said that true love does not end with death. It transforms. It becomes eternal. And so, the story of Okoro and Nkem became legend. Mothers told it to their daughters. Fathers told it to their sons. And the river, once feared, became a place of reflection and respect. People came to leave offerings, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. For love. For sacrifice. For the courage to choose truth over deception. As Okoro's life neared its end, the village gathered to honor him. He had become a wise elder, sought after for counsel. Young men came to him with questions about love, about honor, about how to live with integrity. And he always told them the same thing. Love with your whole heart, but never lose yourself in it. And if you must choose between love and truth, choose truth. For only truth keeps love alive. One young hunter asked, "Elder Okoro, do you regret loving the serpent woman?" Okoro smiled, his eyes distant. "Regret? No. She was the greatest gift of my life. She taught me what love truly means." The young man frowned. "But she hurt you. She betrayed you." Okoro shook his head. "She saved me, and that is all that matters." The night came when Okoro knew his time was near. He walked to the river one last time, his body frail, but his spirit strong. He sat by the water's edge and closed his eyes. "Nkem," he whispered, "I am coming." The water rippled, and from its depths a shimmering light rose. The silver serpent emerged, but this time it transformed. Nkem stood before him, radiant and whole, her spirit finally freed from her earthly curse. She knelt beside him, taking his hand. "I have waited for you," she said softly. Okoro looked at her, tears streaming down his weathered face. "You're here." She nodded. "I never left. I have watched over you every day, every night. I saw you grow old. I heard every word you spoke by this river." He smiled. "Then you know I forgave you." She bowed her head. "I do not deserve your forgiveness." He lifted her chin gently. Forgiveness is not about deserving. It is about healing. They sat together in silence, the moonlight painting the water silver. Around them, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Even the river flowed more quietly, as if listening. "What happens now?" Okoro asked. Nkem stood, offering her hand. Now we walk together, beyond this world, beyond pain and curses and regret. He took her hand, and as he did, his body grew lighter. The aches and pains of age melted away. He stood tall once more, as he had been in his youth. Hand in hand, they walked into the river. But they did not sink. They walked across its surface, their feet leaving ripples of light. The villagers, waking at dawn, found Okoro's body by the riverbank, peaceful and still, a smile on his lips. And in the water, two silver serpents swam together, spiraling around each other in an eternal dance. The village mourned Okoro's passing, but they also celebrated. His life had been one of courage, love, and forgiveness. They buried him near the river, under the shade of an ancient tree. And above his grave, they placed a stone carved with these words: "He loved without fear. He forgave without condition. He taught us that even spirits can be redeemed." Years became decades. Decades became centuries. But the story never died. It was told in every generation, adapted and retold, but always carrying the same truth. The river, once a place of fear, became a place of healing. People came from distant villages to sit by its banks, to pray, to seek guidance. And sometimes, those who came with broken hearts, with guilt or regret, would see two silver serpents swimming together in the water. And they would know, love transcends all boundaries. Even death cannot end what is truly meant to be. The priest said that Okoro and Nkem had become guardian spirits, protecting those who loved truly and punishing those who loved falsely. Whether this was true, no one could say. But everyone agreed on one thing. The river had changed. It no longer flooded with rage. It flowed with grace. And those who drank from it spoke of dreams filled with hope and second chances. And so, dear listener, this story ends where all great stories end, with a question for your heart. The narrator, old and wise, sits by that same river now, watching the water flow endlessly toward the horizon. The moon rises full and bright, casting silver light across the ripples. Somewhere in those waters, two serpents swim, their love eternal, their sacrifice remembered. The narrator turns to you and asks, if you were Okoro, would you forgive the one who betrayed you, if their love ultimately saved your life? Would you see past the deception to the truth beneath? Or would you let bitterness poison what could have been beautiful? These are not easy questions. Love never is. But the lesson remains clear. Love born of deceit cannot live in light. But love born of truth, love willing to sacrifice everything, never truly dies. The river whispers its secrets to those who listen. And if you sit quietly by its banks, you might hear it too. The story of the hunter and the serpent maiden. The story of love and redemption. The story that reminds us all, forgiveness is the most powerful magic in this world. May you carry this tale in your heart. May it guide you when love confuses you, when betrayal wounds you, when you must choose between holding on and letting go. And may you remember, even serpents can learn to love. Even goddesses can fall. And even broken hearts can heal if given truth and time.